So as I want to cover more video game culture stuff here, there is some of that stuff that bleeds directly into what I do. Now, obviously, one of those things was when I covered scalpers, because that bleeds into the little leftist part of me that's just like, you're literally fucking over the proletariats. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, that stuff bleeds in, but I also stream. In fact, if you're watching this video right now, you're either watching this while I'm streaming it, or you're watching this afterwards as a VOD, in which case, either way, this is a product of streaming. So, I want to point out that it's very hard to actually stream as a job. Not that streaming in and of itself is a hard or taxing job. It's only really mentally taxing. It's hard to actually get enough people viewing to where you can sustain yourself doing it. There's not that many people who do it as a full-time job to begin with, because there's just not that many people who manage to get an audience large enough to do it as a job. But Alex Hutchinson has some choice words, had them in October, and I just didn't respond to them when I wanted to, and now I'm here wanting to respond to them now, about streamers. So let's take a look. Before we get into this, though, Alex Hutchinson, he was the lead designer on Sims 2 and Spore, or The Sims 2 and Spore. So if you played either of those, then you have seen his stuff. He was the creative director also on Assassin's Creed 3, Far Cry 4. So if you are a fan of either of those, then you are at least somewhat familiar with some of the work that he has put in to the industry. But Alex says streamers worried about getting their content pulled because they used music they didn't pay for should be more worried by the fact that they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well. It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it. The real truth is the streamers should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use. So, what does this mean? And why is this a problem? Well, it's only a problem insofar as a person's wrong on the internet, and, you know, a person with influence, though, is wrong on the internet, which is at least a little more substantial. But what he is saying here is not that you should pay for the video game before you play it, which is understandable, right? Like, just being a person who sells games and having a stance against piracy would be completely acceptable. That's completely normal. This is, however, not that. This is not a stance against piracy. This is a stance against people streaming video games that they have bought licenses for to play. Now, what would this be akin to? So if I buy a video from the store, right? I go buy a DVD. I have a license to watch that at home. I do not have a license to broadcast that, so I can't put that movie in a DVD player and then put it on a projector and play it in the state park. That's technically not really that legal because it's no longer a private viewing. If I'm wrong on that, please let me know, but from my understanding of the law, that is the case. If he were to take this stance and take how we view videos and movies and transfer that into the realm of video game streaming, then the legalese would kind of support that. And I can understand that. But here's the thing. When you're streaming a game, you're not just streaming the video game itself, because, let's face it, most people are not there for the game alone. They're there for that content creator and how they relate to the game. So, as an example, if I wanted to watch someone play Sonic the Hedgehog, any Sonic the Hedgehog game, I could just go to Twitch and watch anyone. Doesn't matter. Now, what stuff makes me actually want to watch a streamer? I would want to watch somebody like, say, Game Apologist or Channel Pup cover the Sonic the Hedgehog, because I know that they are enthusiasts for that type of content. So I would want to watch them play, because they're not only going to play the game, they're going to give me perspective on that game. And streamers end up acting essentially as free advertising for your games. Think of how many games there are right now that literally would not exist if not for streamers, or would not be anywhere near as popular if not for streamers. Game developers, in many cases, owe their livelihoods to the free advertisement that comes out through popular streamers doing their stuff. Minecraft was not one of the most played games for the last couple years, over and above stuff like Fortnite, until PewDiePie started streaming Minecraft. And then suddenly Minecraft got a lot more popular incredibly quickly. Among Us, another example, a huge one for 2020. Among Us was not the most popular thing in the world for 2 whole years. The game came out in 2018, but you'd think it came out in September 2020, because that's when it exploded. Think of how much that game, Undertale, Fall Guys, think of how much these games rely on streamers for their advertising. FNAF, the entire FNAF community, Five Nights at Freddy's, was born from streamers and content creators basically creating an ecosystem where free advertising was allowed for these things. This isn't the same thing where, like, React videos. We're saying that our reaction content is free advertising for your stuff, because when it's just reactions, it acts as a substitute. If I'm watching an anime and I'm watching somebody doing a react video to that anime, to an extent, that's a substitution for what I'm watching. Now, is it diluted a little bit? Yes. It's more watered down because I'm watching somebody react to it instead of just watching it myself. But when it comes to a video game, a thing you're physically playing, watching someone play that video game is not going to be a substitution, except in the most heavily story-based of story-based games. There's not going to be a substitution for playing it. So the argument that there's a substitution happening when somebody else is watching, or somebody else is playing and you're watching it, that doesn't end up working here very well the same way it did for React content. Alex Hutchinson says that streamers should have to pay a license in order to play their games as a streamer. Now, I can tell you that there already is a company that tried this, and it was Nintendo. Now, it wasn't necessarily a license to play their games on stream, but you made a lot less money if you streamed Nintendo games, because Nintendo made there be a premium for doing their stuff, which sucks when a lot of their content is incredibly good for party games. Hell, one of the whole reasons Among Us got as huge as it did was because it functions as a very good party game. But when you do that, all you end up doing is disenfranchising those players. If an indie developer who you have no idea if their game's going to be great, but you want to stream their game to a live audience, what good does it do to have to pay an extra fee to that indie dev when you streaming that game is going to give that indie dev more money de facto? If this is about making sure that developers get their due amount of money, you guys already got that due amount of money when people streamed your game. I think one of my favorite examples of this would be the Shantae series. Shantae was a game series that lived and died on its first game. Made a single game on the Game Boy Color, and then nobody cared about it because the game came out so far into the Game Boy Color's life cycle, people were already jumping ship onto a new console, and it was a handheld console at that. And then what happened? People emulating, effectively pirating in many cases, emulating Shantae for streams and speedruns on Justin.tv, which of course eventually became Twitch. People engaging in that, bringing the Shantae series into that ecosystem, the speedrunner ecosystem, led to that becoming a household name among Nintendo buffs. Which of course meant that WayForward could now produce more games for the series because they didn't have to pay for a fuck ton of advertising. They didn't even have to make an argument as to why should we make another game when the last one wasn't financially successful. Because the environment had been created where it was going to be successful. It's like when you make a Mario game. Everybody knows who Mario is. When you make a new Mario game, it's gonna be a financial success whether or not making it was a good idea. Because the environment had been created for that success. Streamers do that. Streamers create that environment for your game to succeed, for your game to get more popular. One of the most expensive things when you are trying to market a product is the marketing. One of the most expensive things when you're trying is convincing people that your product is worth buying. Just like when you engage in marketing by using a celebrity endorsement, where someone goes, look at this bottle of hoisin sauce. I, Suris the Skeptic, am not sponsored, but love hoisin sauce. I'm not a celebrity, but you get the point. This is functionally the same thing, the parallel to a celebrity endorsement. Now more people are going to, if I actually had a claim, buy hoisin sauce. That's why you pay for celebrity marketing. When streamers stream your game, it is effectively marketing, sometimes celebrity marketing if it's one of the larger people like Markiplier. When they stream your game, that is marketing you didn't have to pay for. Because they're creating the ecosystem, they're creating the environment where your game gets to succeed, when it otherwise might not have succeeded. And I don't think Alex gets that. When you de-incentivize streamers from streaming your content, you're not going to create an area where your just dues are gotten. You're just going to create a situation where less people want to stream content that you're creating. So go ahead, Alex. The next time you make something of worth, go ahead and force streamers to pay a license to stream your game legally. And I want you to see how that works out. I want you to see what happens when you create that kind of material reality. The end result is most streamers are just not going to stream your content because it's not worth it. It's really not. Streaming is an extension of when you played in the living room in front of your parents or your siblings, or you brought your friends over to see a new game. Streaming is a technological, logical extension of that. Why would you make people pay more for that when companies on the whole benefit more from the ecosystem that is created by those streamers? And I don't think people like Alex get that. But he thinks he does, because he's a game dev. But I implore you, Alex, please, create that environment where you make a game and streamers have to pay for it. And I want you to see how much worse it ends up getting at that point. It doesn't help you. The environment where streamers can stream your game as long as they own it, and you can benefit from the actual marketing that comes from that, it's a win-win. It's not a win-win if you end up trying to screw that subset of your audience.